to take part of this prestigious conference. It's a real pleasure to share or to participate with such renowned experts. I saw from the first day very, very interesting and relevant presentations. So my presentation would be about sustainable desalination technologies in the MENA region. So as you know, desalination now is becoming a strategic option whenever we talk about water security or water scarcity. Briefly, the outline of my presentation will be as follows. So I will briefly introduce the MEDREC, which is the Middle East Desalination Research Center, based in Oman. I will talk about water security in the MENA region, which is the Middle East and North Africa region. I will try to cover also the connection between water energy, and then try to go into desalination as a possible solution. What is the state of the art now? What are the challenges? What are the kind of solutions that we have right now, and how can we make it sustainable? And I will end up by some recommendations and conclusions. So MEDREC is, as I say, the Middle East Desalination Research Center, which is a research and training center based in Oman. It was created by the end of 90s of last century. The main mission is to provide solutions for the water scarcity in the Middle East and North Africa. And we do that through boosting and encouraging research and capacity building and training activities in the region. and also we do transfer knowledge from around the world and bring this knowledge to the region, and we mainstream the latest technologies dealing with the desalination in particular, and how can we help the region to make it sustainable. Those are some photos from the center. So we have a pilot RO desalination unit in the center. We have solar arrays, we have solar desalination units, we have a solar still as well. We have conference rooms for trainings, activities, and workshops. We have equipped laboratory, etc. So just some few examples of projects that we are carrying out now in MEDREC. So we have this project, for example, which is about reusing reverse osmosis membranes for wastewater treatment. So as you know, with the increasing capacity of the desalination industry around the world, we have also an increasing number of membranes, which is somehow a solid waste that we need to deal with. So we are proposing through this project to recycle or reuse these membranes for other kind of applications. In this project, we are partnering with many partners from Spain and from Oman. Also, we launched 2 years ago a very interesting initiative, which we called Oman Humanitarian Desalination Challenge. This is about $700,000 prize we are going to provide to whoever in the world could provide a small desalination device that could be provided in cases of humanitarian crisis. Whenever we have a natural disaster, you know, in the last decade, we had an increasing number of disasters, earthquake, flash flood, tsunamis, etc. And we need solutions for people, you know, in the middle of nowhere, and they don't have, you know, a safe source of fresh water. So we are trying to, through this challenge, to boost solutions in this area. So we have some criteria for this solution. It should be handheld, low cost, under $20 per unit. It should be robust. Should produce at least 3 liters of fresh water per day. It should work at least for 1 month. It should stand alone. I mean, it doesn't need chemicals or whatever. You know, you don't need to add anything else to make it work. And obviously, it needs to provide water with quality of WHO. I mean, which is valid for drinking purposes. So this challenge, you can find more information on desalationchallenge.com. And this year I will show some statistics about it in the next slide. In parallel, we launched another challenge supported by the USAID. It's about a research path grant. We are providing $90,000 to research teams around the world, including Morocco, if teams can develop a sort of beta version of this small desalination device we are looking for. So to help them develop a desalination unit that could produce around 120 liters per day, and which could be, you know, for farmers or for some villages, some remote areas to produce fresh water. So this year we provided the first grant to one Italian startup called Planet, which is developing a sort of solar still inspired from mangrove, which is a bio-inspired, modular, low-cost, easy-to-use solar desalination system. So we are going to develop this project over 1 year. So we give them the first grant of our project. And in terms of the challenge, the other challenge, this year we received 47 applications from around the world. 34 teams progressed as qualified competitors, and we got at the end 13 teams competing for the prize. And you can see that we have got those participation from 20 countries, with some 8 team leaders are women from 23 academic institutions around the world, and some startups and companies. So let's hope that we have a winner this year. Maybe in December or in January we may announce the winner. If no winner this year, the challenge will continue, and so we are going to accept applications again next year, and hopefully we have a solution very soon. So I come back now to the situation, why we are talking about desalination. Why? Because obviously in the last decade we are suffering from water scarcity, we are suffering from water stress and water shortages, where there is a slight differences in definitions of those concepts. But to tell you that the water security is threatened in the Middle East and North Africa region. We have a climate change impact on the water resources, which is putting more pressure on water resources from one hand. We have the economic growth, we have the population growth, and the statistics of the World Bank say that by 2025 we will have 60% of people around the world suffering from water shortages. And obviously in front of that we have a huge salty water from oceans and seas and brackish groundwater, which is salty, and obviously it could become a very important source of fresh water. How to do that? So that's why we are talking about desalination. I'm just going to give some few facts in terms of water scarcity or شح المياه. So by 2050, so it's expected that we will have a drop between 6% to 14% of the GDP each year. So this is huge actually in the MENA region. Also, the MENA region is one of the most water stressed areas in the world. So many countries in this region are having, per capita of renewable water resources under 500 cubic meters per year. And also 12 MENA countries are below absolute water scarcity level of 500 cubic meters per year. And the average of per capita renewable water resource in Morocco and Algeria is around 700 to 400 per capita per year. So how to deal with this? So to deal with water scarcity in general, if you are a water manager at the level of the Ministry of Water or the River Basin Agency or whoever in the decision-making level, so we need to deal with a multi-pronged approach. So we need to deal with the demand side and the supply side. In the demand side, we need to reinforce institutions, the institutional framework, the legislative framework to support more towards more efficient resource use. And we need to support policies that rationalize the demand for water services. We know that a lot of water is lost in distribution networks. A lot of water is lost in agriculture, which consumes around 80% of water resources. Also, we need to support investment in efficiency improvement. From the supply side management, we need to introduce to scale up technologies in desalination and reuse. We need to support innovation in renewable energy, which help, like solar pumping. We need to support innovation in the concentrate management, which is one of the biggest challenges in the desalination industry. And we need to support water quality protection and storage capacity, including aquifer recharge, etc. In Morocco, by the way, we have a very interesting approach, which is le contrat de nappe, the aquifer contract, which is a very interesting approach to deal with the groundwater in Morocco. Also, we need to talk about water energy nexus. Why? Because water energy are very interconnected. So to ensure water security, we need to take care also of the energy, because, for example, desalination is consuming a lot of energy, which is energy-intensive technology. If we talk globally, the water sector uses around 4% of global electricity produced. In particular, 40% for abstraction, 25% for conveyance, and 20% for treatment of wastewater mainly. Energy consumption in the water sector is expected to double by 2040, obviously as an increasing of the seawater desalination. So we have more and more desalination plants around the world. Nowadays, we have around 20,000 desalination plants, and we are producing around 100 million cubic meters per day of desalinated water. And this is consuming more than 300 million kilowatt hour peak, per cubic meter. So this is huge. Some facts from some Arab countries. For example, in Jordanian water sector accounts for 50% of the total annual electricity generated. In Saudi Arabia, groundwater pumping accounts for 10% of total fuel consumption. In Libya, groundwater pumping accounts for 14% of total fuel consumption. And in Bahrain, 30% of the total energy used is for desalination. The statistics coming from the UNESCO in Beirut. So, is desalination the solution to ensure water security? Obviously, this is a legitimate question. In the MENA countries, we have access to seawater. And if we look at 80% of the population is concentrated in the coastal area, and the big cities are in the coastal areas. So desalination definitely is a critical component of the solution. And if you look at the water policies or strategies around the region, whether national level or regional level, for example, the Mediterranean Water Strategy, or the Western Mediterranean Water Strategy, or the Water Strategy of the Arab League, all of those document policies or strategies, you will find desalination as one of the main components of the solution. But the current solution actually are costly, energy intensive, as I said before, and lead to environmental degradation. We need to deal with environmental impact. And this is mainly a large part due to technology reliance on fossil fuels. So there is a need to develop less polluting and more energy efficient desalination plants. So what is desalination? So desalination technologies are in general terms, water treatment processes. that produce fresh water from saline water. That could be from ocean, sea, or brackish groundwater. As I said before, that represents 97.5% of the water available in Earth. Almost 97% of the available water in the Earth is ocean or sea or brackish water. So the desalination process can be accomplished in many different ways, using different energy sources to power the separation between the water and salt. So either it is mechanical or thermal or electrical energy to separate, the fresh water from the concentrate or from the salt. In general, we have different ways to classify such technologies. It depends, or according to the three criteria. What is the extract from saline water? Are we extracting salt or are we extracting water? So obviously there are some industries that are extracting salt and minerals from the salty water. And also the type of separation, whether we talk about thermal desalination or membrane-based desalination technologies. And the third criteria, which is the type of energy, whether we are using mechanical energy or thermal energy or electrical energy. I can show you here, the most probably common or popular desalination technologies that we know. So energy might be required either as heat, power, or even a combination of both energy forms. So we are talking, for example, about heat-driven processes. So in particular, multiple effective evaporation, or TVC, MSF, the multi-stage flash, or MED, membrane distillation, or humidification, dehumidification. We can talk about power-driven processes. Also, in the middle, in both energy form, we can talk about mechanical vapor compression. And if we talk about only, power-driven processes, we can mention reverse osmosis, RO, or electrodialysis, for example. Now, with the state of the art around the world, almost 70% of desalination plants are now RO, are membrane-based technologies. And we have in the second in the ranking, we have MSF and we have MED. But the expectations or the forecast for the upcoming years, RO will get more and more margin in the market. So RO, the most popular nowadays. I will explain why later. The treatment of scheme of desalination by RO. So we have whatever, whether we talk about seawater desalination or brackish water, groundwater or surface water, whatever the source of the saline water. So we need the pretreatment first, then the RO unit, where we have the membranes and the different components of the RO system, and then a post-treatment. So we adjust the quality of the water depending on the use we are looking for, either drinking or agriculture, or whatever use we are intending behind this applying or adopting RO technology. So in the pretreatment phase, obviously we have the intake and the screening. So we, for example, we have the intake in the seawater, so to bring the water into the plant. And then in the pretreatment we use sand filters, we use cartridge filters. Sometimes we use even DAF system, which is more common in the Gulf because of the harmful algae blooms, some algae that proliferate in the sea. And so we have some chemical injection. We need chemicals, obviously, chlorine, sulfate ions, scale inhibitor. And so the pretreatment is important in order to push the better quality water into the RO system. And in terms of RO, so we have the high pressure pumps, which is necessarily, we need high pressure. So we need high pressure pumps in the RO system. We have the RO modules or membranes. We have the energy recovery devices, which is meant to improve energy efficiency of the system. And we do also cleaning. So we produce fresh water from one side, and we produce the brine discharge or the very salty water that I will talk about later. And then obviously we have the post-treatment. So in the post-treatment, we need to adjust the pH and remineralize. Add some minerals. All the bottled water that you have in the market, many of them are using desalination. And obviously, once they have the desalinated water, they need to add some minerals. And depending on the brand, so we have less or more concentration of different, magnesium, sodium, etc. And we also do disinfection. So again, it depends on the end user. It is the consumer at the houses, or it is the farmer, or whoever is the user. So we adjust the quality of the water accordingly. Some facts about desalination. So if you look at the islands, for example, Maldives, it's very obviously popular touristic destination, or even in Malta, which is very close in the Mediterranean, or Bahamas, all of them meet their water need through desalination process. Okay, the energy is the large single expense for desalination plants. as I mentioned, probably either whether thermal desalination or membrane desalination technologies, almost around between 30 to 50% of the cost is from the energy, electrical energy. Desalination plants around the world consume more than 200 million kilowatt each day. It takes 2 liters of seawater to make 1 liter of fresh water. It depends on the efficiency of the system. This is just an average. Desalination take only a quarter of the electricity to generate drinking water as it did in the 80s of the last century. Obviously, huge improvements in terms of the cost of the energy consumption. So we have obviously more efficient pumps, we have better membranes, and we have better energy recovery devices. In terms of the cost, this is a very complex question. But now we are talking about the record, which is registered recently by the Hassian Seawater RO plant in Dubai. They are talking about $0.277 per unit, per cubic meter, sorry. This is very, 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 I mean, it's actually a record. It's very difficult to get this price. And around up to $1.5 per cubic meter. So this is obviously an average, and I will talk about the cost later. So the MENA region, actually, we are producing half of what is produced in the world in terms of desalinated water. So we are talking about around 48 million cubic meters per day, and the first producer of desalinated water is Saudi Arabia, which has a capacity of more than 15 million cubic meters per day, followed by UAE, and then we have other Gulf countries like Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, and we have Algeria, and we have now increasing capacity in Egypt, and in Jordan they have project, in Morocco, in Tunisia we have many projects in the pipeline. If we try to map the project in Morocco, so we have, you can see from this Data website, an important number of desalination plants in Morocco. The biggest one was in Jafr al-Asfar, I mean 75,000 cubic meters per day. But now we have in construction the Agadir plant, which will be inshallah operational by next year. It will be producing the first phase 275,000 cubic meters per day, and there is an extension which is expected, like around 175,000 cubic meters per day, so which will make the plant producing 450,000 cubic meters per day, which will be one of the biggest plants around the world in terms of producing water not only for drinking, but half of it will be for agriculture. So this is a very interesting project actually in Morocco. So this is some photo from the, it's still under construction. So as I said, it will be operational next year. And as I said, the first phase, it will be producing 275,000 cubic meters per day. And it is developed by Abengoa, the Spanish company, and it is RO plant. Also desalination, as I said, so it is in general used to produce drinking water. Almost all the Gulf cities, for example, Dubai, Doha, Muscat, all of them are, are consuming desalinated water. But also we have some applications in agriculture. So in Spain, the south of Spain, Almeria and Murcia, because of the agriculture activity, because of the water scarcity, so they are using desalination also for agriculture. And in Oman as well, we have the north of Oman, a lot of farmers, around 100 farms at least, they are using desalination units to produce water for their agriculture. And the cost is actually around $0.65 per cubic meter. But again, this is a complex aspect because we are talking about a price without taking into consideration the subsidizing of electricity. So here, water and electricity are very heavily subsidized. Obviously, this reduces the cost. Otherwise, the cost will be much more expensive. In Spain, $0.4 per cubic meter, but there are some considerations. So they are mixing fresh water with desalinated water, and this makes the water affordable for the farmers. Is it a sustainable solution, desalination? So we have some of the biggest challenges, actually, as you know, energy consumption. So thermal desalination, we're talking about 10 to 20 kilowatt hour per cubic meter, RO less than 10, now around 3.5 kilowatt hour per cubic meter. We have the cost, capital or operational cost. We have what happened in RO, especially plants, fouling scaling, which happen often in the membrane. So we need to change the membrane or to increase the operational cost. And we have, in particular, the environmental impact. So the energy consumption, carbon footprints. So we know that Morocco and many countries in the region, all of them are committed to the Paris Agreement in terms of reducing the CO2 footprints. So we need to look at this, and we need also to look at the brine discharge, because desalination plants are producing fresh water, but they are also producing, the brine, which is a very concentrated salty water, but also with some chemical concentration. We need to deal with it to reduce the possible impact on the marine ecosystem. And if we talk about brackish water, so also we need to find solutions in order to avoid contaminating, the groundwater. But also there are some consideration around the impact due to intake, because once you install desalination plants somewhere on the coastal area, you need to install intake system into the sea. So you need to take a lot of consideration before installing your intake system. So in terms of this desalination energy consumption, as I said before, so we had witnessed a very considerable other water options. So those are some statistics about the energy consumption per cubic meter of water in the desalination project in the last 20 years. And you can see, that we are now more and more going under 3 kilowatt hour per cubic meter. Is there a question or something?
It's okay.
Yeah. And in terms of the main environmental concerns, so we can talk about the seawater intakes. We can talk about the concentrates, chemicals, the brine. We can talk about the land use and construction impacts. And we can talk about the carbon dioxide, air pollutants, or the carbon footprint or carbon emissions, CO2 emissions. So in terms of desalination plant intake and outfall, so this is a very important, this is, we are talking about project that's cost more than $100 million, dollar. Even double or 3 or 4 times this cost. And so we need to take into consideration many engineering consideration, but also many, environmental consideration. So this is just to show you in terms of the onshore delivery pipes, the offshore mixing zone. We need to find a way to discharge the brine safely without, harming the marine ecosystem. The brine disposal is done in this way. The outfall with diffuser designed to reduce salinity down to 10% of the ambient levels within 100 meters of the discharge. So obviously this is in general decided in the terms of reference of the decision maker at the country. Whenever you give the permits to a company to construct desalination plants, you have some terms of reference that you need to deal with it, and you have the environmental impact assessment study that you need to do it in advance, and in a way that you seek for the less impact on the marine ecosystem. But again, even though, so we have an impact. So due to the intake already, so we have the intake seawater, which is not a mere seawater, but a habitat which contains a lot of, entire ecosystem, phytoplankton, zooplankton, larval forms of invertebrates and fishes. So you cannot just install it like that. So you may destroy this ecosystem. So the major impact could be animals larger than the mesh injury, or this due to impinging effects. So when you install your screening intake system, so you may kill some fishes, the big ones, and you may also the smaller one, they can stay stuck in the screening system, so you kill them that way. And so the construction of the intake structure causes disturbance of the seabed, which can result in a suspension of sediments and release of nutrients and pollutants into the water column. So this is just to show you what happened for the big fishes and the small ones. So what we call impingements and what we call internments that happen into the skin and the intake system. The brine discharge, so the brine is a fluid waste from this plant, which contains a high percentage of salt and dissolved minerals. It is disposed back to the sea and being diffused according to different aspects. So we need to obviously to respond to the legislation. That's why it's also important to have a strong and strict legislation that the company should respect whenever it comes to those kind of constructions. And the brine discharge plume current, the brine might be rejected directly either into the ocean, the sea, or combined with other discharges. So we need to consider that. There are particular factors that play significant role in the discharge plume. The direction of the wind, we need to look at the direction of the wind and the speed, the wave height and speed, the bathymetry, and the tidal mean and average. All these kind of factors are considered in general in the environmental impact assessment studies. So just to show you here quickly the discharge of the hot brine with high salt concentration to the sea, the chemical additives and biocide in the discharge. So you have this kind of configuration. So you may find a lot of chemicals in this brine, which is discharged into the sea. The impact due to the discharge. So we have the impact of increase in salinity that may conclude or result in an increase of salinity, an increase in temperature. Especially in thermal desalination plants, we have an increase of temperature in the brine, a decrease in the solvent oxygen, which may cause problems to the marine ecosystem and to the fish, and toxicity that is caused by the chlorine, the trace metals, and different kind of chemicals that are used in the process. So the high salinity, so we need to do some measures in order to reduce the salinity increase, the temperature also. And some important impact are the proliferation of the harmful algae blooms. I don't think that this problem is happening now in Morocco because we don't have a big desal capacity. We don't probably have, maybe the Atlantic is less important, this problem. But in some countries, for example, in the Gulf, in the coast of Iran, we have a very big problem on that, even in California and Japan. So we have what we call, proliferation of those harmful algae blooms, sorts of microorganisms that proliferate, and when they are in high concentration, they invade the coast, so they can stack in the intake system. If they pass through the desal system, they can destroy the membranes and cause a lot of problems. In terms of chemicals, so we use chemicals, as we said before, in the pre-treatment, the post-treatment. So we do a lot of that because we need to, to avoid biofouling and the scaling, etc. And we have different kind of chemicals. I will not get into details. Obviously, such chemicals can have impact on the fish, but also can have impact on the humans. If you consume such fish or such, shellfish or whatever seafood that are in this area, that could also impact on the human health. Some scientists, or I saw a publication, for example, this example, show the contrary, show that in some areas where the salinity has increased, there is better existence or presence of the fish. So this is, I think, need to be further studied because this is not really the case in general. In general, the increase of salinity will alterate the marine ecosystem and has a negative impact. So we talked about, we need to mitigate those impacts. We can do mitigation measures for intake, and we can adopt also mitigation measures for the discharge. So we can, the first thing is we need a proper site selection for intakes, which reduce the aquatic loss caused due to the interment. So we need to find a way to construct the plant in an area, as you can see here, where we take into consideration the current, the wind direction, and the area where the fish have the larval area or the spawning area. So we need to avoid those areas to put the right selection of the site. In terms of impingement mitigation measures, so we need to have, we have some technical aspect that we can use: the light, acoustic fish deterrent, velocity cap. Sometimes we use vertical wells or infiltration galleries. For example, in Oman, there is one plant in Sur which is using beach well intakes. This is very interesting because the beach well intake provide better feed water quality. So this is actually, I think since 8 years, they never changed the membranes. But obviously the beach well intake, you cannot do it everywhere. It depends on the geology of the area and many other considerations. So this is just some techniques that we use in the intake system to avoid, the pass of the fish and some other sea life. And the subsurface intake, so we have different kind of intake system. Again, this is horizontal directional drilling. We can do it in some areas, but it's not possible everywhere. And we have vertical beach well as well. The precaution that we can take, so the impact on the population level is not clear given the naturally high mortality of larval organism marine system. Appropriate screens and low intake velocity on open surface intake can minimize the impingement, and locating intakes away from biological productive areas can definitely reduce or eliminate entrainment of small planktonic organisms, etc. So the three aspects that we take into consideration in the discharge are discharge dispersion. So we cannot just discharge in an area without dispersing this brine. effluent composition. So some legislation make the companies, try to reduce the concentration of some chemicals or whatever in the brine before discharging it. And the environmental impact assessment, which is a must whenever it comes to desalination project, we need environmental impact assessment study. Some seawater outfall precautions. We need to discharge at least 1 kilometer into the sea. We need residual dilution, a diffuser above seabed, so in a way to not be closer to the seabed. Some effects to minimize the salinity change or create a positive mini-facially microenvironment. In the case of brackish water desalination brine, so we use evaporation pond. Is very popular, but again, it's a very basic solution. But if you are dealing with a small desalination unit, it's fine. Could be a good solution. You put the brine into an evaporation pond, حوض تبخر, and you wait that this liquid evaporate with the solar radiation, and then the concentrated salt, you can deal with it easily. But we have other solutions, deep well injection, which needs a study of the geology of the area. We can have some other solutions, and even some industries are using the brine, are extracting minerals and chemicals from this brine. So I'm not going to detail. Another kind of waste we need to deal with in the upcoming years, which is the solid waste. So obviously, as I said before, we have more than I think 20,000 desalination plants around the world, and we have the membranes RO membrane have a life cycle, so we cannot last more than 5 or 8 years, sometimes even less. After the life cycle, we need to dispose them. So the landfill is the option in general, and it could add another environmental impact. So we need to deal with it. So we have solutions. So one project we are working now in MEDREC on it is this project use of end-of-life RO membrane to treat wastewater for industrial and agriculture use, which is funded by the Research Council in Oman. I'm the PI of this project, and the objective is to estimate or to reuse, instead of disposing those end-of-life RO membrane. We are extending their life. We are proposing another use for them. So we can do some, like for example, oxidation, and to transform them from RO membrane into nanofiltration or ultrafiltration membranes that could be used for other, treatment like gray water or other kind of wastewater. So the objective is to reduce the cost of wastewater use, to recycle those end-of-life RO membranes, to provide desalination plant operator with a solution for their membranes waste disposal. We can treat wastewater using those kind of membranes, and to provide an additional water supply option for irrigation or sensitive crops. So we collect those membranes from desalination plants, and we did in this project we are working on the first of thing. We do the integration test, and we do the characterization of those membranes. So we study the morphology of the membrane surface, etc. And then we also do, if we have to do we do obviously the analysis of the permeability, the salt rejection, etc. And then we try to transform those membranes into, as I said, nanofiltration membranes or ultrafiltration membrane that could be used in other applications. We have another impact, which is the air quality. So the air quality impact of this project are mainly associated with the use of energy during the manufacturing, transportation of materials, especially during the construction of the plants, and all the associated infrastructure. So there is some air quality impact. So already we have an estimation of these CO2 emissions, and I will give some statistics here. In some plants in Australia and Spain, we have how much CO2 we are emitting from these plants. But I think if we consider it compared with other industries, it is not really that important. I mean, it's important, but not that considerable compared with other kind of industries, textile or other industries. But I can give some statistics about the carbon footprint of the current systems. So as a fraction of the world energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions, this emission is small, less than 0.2% of the worldwide energy consumption in 2013. RO is the less, the most proper, the technology. We are talking about 1.5 to 3.6 kilograms CO2 produced per cubic meter of fresh water. Obviously, depends on which kind of energy we are talking about, fuel or to produce electricity or coal or gas, etc. The MED technology, we are talking about 8 to 16 kilograms CO2 per cubic meter. So RO is much better than this, and it is expected by 2040 to reach 218 million tons of CO2 per year. So if really we are committed to Paris Agreement, we need to do an effort in dealing with this. This is just to show you a comparison between 4 technologies, greenhouse gas impact versus the technology readiness level for some several low carbon diesel systems. So the combination between the photovoltaic and RO, the combination between wind energy and RO, CSP and thermal desalination hybrid, and optimized power water cogeneration. And we can see that the PV and wind RO are the highest in terms of TRL, technology readiness level, than directly coupled arrangements. In terms of the economics of desalination, so the capex and opex, we can compare between thermal and RO membrane. I will try to go fast because I think we are already 40 minutes. So some comparison between operational and capital cost of thermal desalination and RO desalination. It's clear that RO is making a difference the last years. That's why it is now becoming the first player in the market. This shows you some comparison between the cost of the seawater RO desalination in the Mediterranean and the MSF or MED or the Red Sea. So the cost comparison is a very complex question because it depends on so many parameters. In terms of technology trends, we can see that in the future we are going definitely toward the more and more membrane desalination plants rather than thermal, which is really in the last year it is like stuck and is not that increasing that much. In terms of some technology disappointments, I mean, in the last years, a lot of research is being done because, as you know, the technology desalination is now in the forefront of research to provide solution for the water scarcity. And we are talking about, you know, different technologies, membrane distillation, capacity ionization, a lot of technologies. But again, between the lab scale, between the laboratory and the publication and the industry, there is, you know, a couple of years, and even sometimes it's never reached, you know, the industry because it's very complex. And for example, 2 years ago, some researcher in the Manchester University published that they can use graphene membranes in RO system, and it was published in Nature. A lot of people were talking about it, made a buzz in social network, etc. But now what happened? So it's still not yet in the market because it takes a lot of time to really make it competitive in the market, how it will work, you know, in real conditions. So those are just some examples of different technologies that were promising, but with the time it shows that it's not really that's much practical in reality. So the cost depends on a lot of factors. The plant size, we're talking about big or small plants, the maturity, which kind of technology we are using, the water quality, which region, obviously, desalination water in the Mediterranean or the Atlantic is not the same as in the Gulf region or in the you know, the Pacific Ocean. So it depends on where you are. And if we are talking about RO, we need to take into consideration all those parameters that you see in the slide. So we need to take into consideration the intake system. So we have to deal with the capacity, with the intake type, a lot of type we have in the market, with the source of water quality, and the pretreatment. Again, we have to deal with which kind of pretreatment type, the capacity, which kind of pumps we are using, which kind of filters. And the RO system, again, we are dealing with different kind of membranes, energy recovery devices. The configuration is also important, you know, the membrane, how you put them in the plants. The energy saving, a lot of improvement done at the level of energy recovery device, the high pressure pumps, the renewable energy now more and more in the markets. And the post-treatment also, we have different configuration. So all those factors impact at the end on the cost per cubic meter. In terms of improvement in the upcoming years, I think the improvement would come from, you know, from different areas. We have some improvement that could be from hybrid processes. So we can combine RO maybe with membrane distillation to get less and less brine. We can forward osmosis, some improvements, some better membranes, probably better energy recovery devices. Still, there is margin to improve in these areas. So this is just to show you quickly from this data website that you can do simulations. So depending on the capacity of your plant and the seawater quality, etc., you can simulate how much it will cost you on the capex and the opex and per cubic meter. Okay, and in terms of cost, you can distribute it like that in our operational cost. So almost 40% is coming from electrical energy, and some other costs coming from the chemicals, the labor, maintenance, etc. In terms of the expectations, there still will be an improvement in terms of cost water per cubic meter and the construction cost and electrical energy. So we are talking now about 3.5 kilowatt hour per cubic meter for RO, and the thermodynamic limit I think is around 1.2. So I think in the next 20 years we can reach 2.1, 2.4. Maybe it will be impossible to go further because obviously there is a thermodynamical limit, but there is definitely margin to improve in terms of energy consumption and in terms of energy efficiency and in terms of the cost. Finally, in terms of renewable desalination, we have lots of possibilities. Obviously, the most popular are PV, CSP, or wind energy. And I can show you quickly that some challenges are related to that, the fact that desalination work in general in steady state conditions, while renewable energy, as you know, is not stationary. So we need to do with energy storage, or how can we adapt to the variable operation. Solar desalination is the most popular now at small scale. It's competitive. You can see many solar plants in some areas in Morocco, in the region, in the MENA region, because solar desalination plants are inexpensive, are cheaper. They are low maintenance cost. It's environment friendly, so there are lots of advantages. But the big scale is still challenging. I'm talking about more than 10,000 cubic meters per day production. We have still some plants, in Algeria, Morocco, Qatar, Tunisia, just some examples. In Morocco, this project I participated in somehow indirectly in 2003. So we are talking about 2003. So 17 years after that, the same project, we can reproduce it in Morocco. We are going to get much less price or cost of the cubic meter. In Saudi Arabia, they have one of the biggest plants powered by solar, I think 60,000 cubic meters per day, HAJJAJI plants. In terms of the comparison, so between CSP and the PV, in the last 20 years, there were a lot of discussion, lots of research on that. CSP was very promising, but the last year there is more, I think, more trend to go to PV. But again, depends on the brackage or seawater desalination, depends on the big or small scale. The PV modules have decreased considerably in terms of price, which encouraged the PV deployments. The cost is becoming competitive when it comes to now we're talking about 500 or 5,000 cubic meters per day with conventional desalination cost. The conclusion finally, desalination on a large scale has environmental and energy implication. So the brine, the greenhouse gas emissions, the energy security. So we need to make it sustainable. Renewables through PV, for example, or CSP is possible, making this feasible energy. MENA countries are on the cutting edge of innovation, combined use of desalination with renewable energies. We have many examples in UAE, in Oman, in Morocco, in Tunisia. Advantages of PV become decisive for standalone configuration and small size systems. Whenever we have remote areas or small villages, it's definitely a good solution. The success of implementing solar desalination technology at commercial scale depends on the improvement to convert solar energy into electrical or thermal energies economically. And finally, PV is often combined with RO. So we have electricity storage, which is still challenging. I hope that the next year we will have some improvement in terms of batteries cost. Decentralized solar-powered water desalination system offer independence to help to avoid being taken hostage by price raises. I will quickly mention the last one which is improved brine management strategies are required to limit the negative environmental impact. So we have different kind of solutions now in the markets. And finally, the final slide, sorry for the time, recommendations. So the current technologies are very energy intensive still. There is a need to develop low energy driving processes, which could be integrated with renewable energies. Special attention should be paid to renewable safe energy sources, of which the most important is solar, which can have enormous potential, as Morocco holds one of the highest solar potential in the world. Private-public partnership or build, operate, transfer financial mechanism could be very important. We applied this in Agadir desalination plants. And finally, countries of the region must invest in capacity building and in localizing sustainable desalination technologies to ensure water security. Why I'm talking about that? Because still, after 50 years of desalination deployment in the region, we are not capable or able to produce or to fabricate any component of the desalination plants. So if there is any other crisis like the pandemic this year, I mean, we had some problems and some fear in the plants when China closed the borders. With a lot of plants were worried about the chemicals importation, because all the chemicals are in general imported from China, etc. So we need to also look at the localization of the technology. Thank you so much for your attention. Sorry for the time, and I will be happy to respond to your question. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your interest in the conference. I think we will start by Professor Innawi.
Thank you that you gave me the floor. Okay, first of all, thank you, Professor JAUAD, for this excellent review on water desalination, which is a very important topic, especially for Morocco. And I want just to make one question which is very general, and I wrote it down in the archive of the conference in order to stay there. I want you to read it. There are plenty of nations which are water scarce countries. This, Morocco is one of them, especially in South Morocco, which is confronted to the drawing ground water reserves and a strong dependence on rain feed agricultures, and also the pollution of water because the lack of the functioning sanitary network and waste water treatment. And my question is, do you think it's not time to have a task force in Morocco to face these challenges? And the second question is, I think technologies which are related to material science, for example, membrane, is a very important research topic. And I haven't seen in Morocco some call regarding this kind of research, like membrane for water treatment, either heterogeneous water treatment or homogeneous water treatment using, for example, material. Titanium oxide is a material which is used very much for water pollution, depollution, etc. I think, in my opinion, I would like if you can comment on this kind of direction of research, which we normally, a portfolio should come from the Minister of Research in Morocco to resolve these problems. And thank you again for this very important conference on water desalination.
Thank you very much.
By the way, please,
yes.
I forget one very important question. It's very important, and you say this at the end, if there is some problem like pandemic, and we cannot supply from outside Morocco materials, hardware, etc. Do you think that it's not time that Morocco have his own research from the lab into the industry in order that we have everything in Morocco without need to buy something from China or from somewhere else, especially for water desalination? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Nawi. Shall I respond Professor FADOUA now, or wait for other questions and respond?
It's okay. You can answer him, and after we'll.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so the first point you talked about the task force. I think yes. I mean, definitely, it's very interesting point. I just was nominated 1 month ago in one task force created by the Cyprus Institute for the Eastern Mediterranean countries, and they are focusing on 4 topics. One of them is the non-conventional water resources, which are desalination and reuse of treated wastewater. And I don't know how how efficient would be in terms of influencing decision making in this area of the Mediterranean. But if we talk about Morocco, I think yes, I know that there is a national water plan, and there is obviously the national strategy or plan. We have also focused on desalination. There are some desalination plans in the pipeline in the upcoming years. I think I heard about Casablanca. The Agadir one will be operational next year, and in Reef also we have some probably project in Nadur. But probably I second you a task force which could gather decision makers with some main researchers in Morocco that work in the area, with probably some industries. I know that OCP are very interested in such kind of solutions, and probably also we can engage farmers and all the interested parties in this technology. It could be very useful probably to because in general, not talking about only Morocco, in the region, the policies are taken with the top-down approach, and often the end user is not involved in the process of developing the policy or the strategy. So I think this is definitely a very good point, and I second you in recommending this to whoever can heed this or take this further. I think I personally can mobilize also some other people around the world. We have a lot of Moroccans working in the area, and we can definitely give support to this task force. And the membrane fabrication, yes, I think the localization point. I was in 2, 3, 4 years ago in one of the meeting of the Arab League of Arab States in Cairo, and they talked about this point, especially for the Gulf region. The Gulf region, as you know, they are desalinated water since 50 years or 60 years ago, and still now they are not really. There are some small efforts maybe in Saudi Arabia and UAE, and in fabricating some membranes or some components, but still there is very big need in that area. And we saw clearly this year with the pandemic that suddenly the border closes and you cannot maybe import some components. So would be a real problem in the future. So I think, yes, I encourage also maybe the Ministry of Higher Education and Research to invest in this area. I know that we have very capable researchers in Quneitra, in Oujda, in many universities in Morocco that can develop some very interesting research with very close links to the industry in terms of fabricating the membranes and make it probably practical, and then with dealing, and they can make a deal with in the desalination plants in Agadir and others, and make probably a sort of starting the process from now. I think this is a very good step. Also, I think we need to do. Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will next question with Professor Rashid Tuzani. Professor.
Thank you so much for this nice conference. I have two questions. What is the criteria for your accepting the grants? You talk about grants, you have projects. What is the criteria to emphasize to apply for the grants? The second one, last time in the conference, Professor Abidi from Texas talked about microplastics. Do you have any idea about your membrane, the effect of your membrane about the fresh water extracted? And thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Professor Tuzani, for those questions. As per the first one, yes, I mean, this project funded by the USAID, we are giving now grants of $90,000, which is not much, but could help, as I say, to develop some destination units with the production of 120 liters per day that could be used in some areas in remote areas or wherever there is a need of fresh water. So there is no specific criteria. Any research team in the university, on a research center, wherever in the world, not only in the Arab region in Morocco, they can apply. So I think the next call may be launched before the end of the year. So we are going to provide at least 2 grants, and we are only requiring equivalent $90,000 in kind. So in kind could be justified just by your laboratory, by your staff time, and some equipment that you have already in the lab. But I think it wouldn't be a problem. So yes, the next call, be please. Stay tuned. We publish it in our website, medrec.org, and the social networks. So next call probably will be launched before the end of the year. Second question quickly. So microplastic. Yes, this is an important question. A lot of concerns in the last years of people talking about the possible, that we are probably consuming the microplastic in our fresh water. I think, and technically, the RO membranes remove almost 99% of every, of all the organic, inorganic compounds in the water, and we get real fresh water that is of high quality and which is conform to the WHO standards. The microplastic, but still is an issue because I think is more concern of the bottled waters. Because the bottled waters, obviously, there are lots of people talking about, the bottle itself. When you keep the water in the bottled water for a certain time, there may be, some microplastic that could be, that could exist or be present in the fresh water. So I know also that some, even I think 2-3 days ago, one of my friends, an Egyptian friend in Pennsylvania, we published the paper on the microplastic, in the water. So I think it still is an area where we require further research to see how much we are getting or avoiding the microplastic in the water. But I think again, in terms of RO desalination technologies, I don't think that there is much risk. The water that we have from the water is pure, and there is no really much concern. What happened later on in distribution network on the bottled waters? This is another issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear. So now, next question with Professor Judah from Palestine.
Your mic, Professor.
Please,
your mic.
Your mic. Professor Judah.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, first of all, I would like to thank everyone. I would like to thank the organization committee for this excellent job. Believe me, I mean, in this Corona time, to have an excellent conference and good, excellent speakers, this is amazing for me. Well, thank you very much. And the second thing, I want to thank Dr. KHARRAZ for his talk, and I want to thank him, especially myself. I got over than 80 scholarships from MEDRIC. So MEDRIC, they did excellent job for Palestine, and especially for me, I got over than 80 scholarship for my student. I have just a small question. Now, you know, the research about water desalination or water purification. I mean, we are talking about desalination. We are talking about using nanomaterials, nanotechnology, and there is new techniques, which is called metal organic framework these days, which is extremely, you know, published in very high impact factor. I mean, where do we stand with desalination? The way I read papers and I look at the technology, desalination looks to me like an old technique, and it's very, very costly. Besides, you know, using those membranes, sometimes, you know, the membranes, you have to reuse them again and these things. And thank you very much, Dr. FADOUA, for letting me asking the question. Thank you very much.
Well,
thank you very much, Professor Jude, for your kind words. And if you got more than 80 grants, that means that a lot about the quality of your research and the quality of your supervising of your students. So this is really, I mean, we appreciate this, and we have been witnessing the quality of the research that is done by you under your supervision. In terms of the second point, yes, obviously, I know that desalination and even RO technology, a lot of people were very against this technology because basically the cost, as you said, because of the environmental impact. So a lot of people were against this. But now with this extreme water scarcity, and we are talking about the big scale. I mean, if we talk about small scale, is another issue I will talk about. So the big scale, we need a lot of water to feed, you know, the cities in the coastal areas, in many areas around the world. So we need solutions that provide a huge amount of water. So I think there is no other solution that really produce that much amount of water, of fresh water, for those purposes. And now, obviously, we need all to collaborate to make this destination, as I said, sustainable. We need better legislation. We need better decision-making process in a way to push the industries to provide better destination technology with less cost and with less environmental impact. And in the small scale, yes, I know that there are many other solutions. For example, even in small areas, the people are developing the technology of getting water from the air, from humidity. And there are some other technologies that, you know, don't really consume that much the amount of energy. But I think that still, you know, very limited applications. So this is the thing. I mean, at the big scale, when we talk about more than 50 or 100,000 cubic meters per day, for the moment, I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, we have to deal with desalination. That's, I think, we need more effort to make it sustainable and limit as much as possible the negative effect around it. Yes, I know the research, Oliver. Also, the other last point is a lot of research is being done in the area you mentioned it, and I hope really that this innovation and this research we can see it in industry, in the market very soon. But it take years. It take years because obviously the lab scales. We need to upscale the technologies and make it, you know, technology readiness level higher than 5, 6, 7 to see it, you know, real. In the meanwhile, we need to deal with what we have. So unfortunately, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much.
There's another question.
If there is nobody, I still have one. Otherwise, I can.
Yeah, please.
You allowed me. So I think I want to ask you, Dr. JAUAD, about the reverse osmosis. Do you think that instead of thermal desalination, the inverse osmosis can be the future for the desalination? And if yes or not, what is the capex and opex for reverse osmosis? Is it too high in order to implement this, or if the things are still in the research, or in which readiness level we have the reverse osmosis?
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Nawi. No, I mean, as I showed probably in the slide, probably I was quick, that's why I couldn't stay longer in the slides where I tried to talk about the capex and opex of the technologies. RO is dominating now the market for the simple reason that is, in terms of capex, opex is cheaper than the thermal desalination. At least at level of big plants, more than 100,000 cubic meters per day. RO is showing much more, improvements in terms of cost. So that's why. So in terms of operation, OPEX, in terms of CAPEX, at the end of the day, the cubic meter of RO now, they say in Hassian plant in UAE, we're talking about $0.3 per cubic meter, which is really a record. So again, taking into consideration lots of consideration, like the subsidizing the water electricity, the different components, etc. But RO now is according to all the experts, according to the Global Water Intelligence and all the experts in the area, RO will be still dominating at least in the 5-7 years upcoming years. After that, I hope really that some technologies are now very popular in the research could really make a difference and try to penetrate the market and try to maybe improve the RO. But meanwhile, I think in the next 7-8 years, I don't see really a very serious competitor to RO. At least I'm talking about the big plants. At small scale, yes, maybe that's why we launched the Humanitarian Desalination Challenge. We are looking for small desalination devices, and these small devices could be built with any other technology, hopefully with a very innovative technology. But at big plants, for the moment, I don't see any competitor to RO in terms of COPEX and CAPEX. Plus, obviously the financial setup of those projects help a lot, and the PPP and the BOT, contract with 25 years of operation of the company. I mean, building the plants, operating the plant, and transferring back to the government is showing that it works. It works for all the parties, for the government, for the private sector, for the banks who give the money, and for the end users. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I can send you the presentation and more information, Dr. Nawi, about the CAPEX, OPEX, so you can see, the figures in detail.
Yes, thank you. By the way, when I was in Qatar, there was, Nidal, Dr. Nidal. He's the editor-in-chief of Desalination Journal. Yeah. And we discuss a lot about this. And there is another guy, I forget his name, he's also in England now. And I think the reverse osmosis is one of the topics, in my opinion, the research at the university should focus on it now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I do agree.
Thank you. I think that other question.
السلام عليكم سي جواد. I think that the cost of the desalination is very, very high comparing to operation of wastewater.
Yes. Yes, if you want me to comment on this, yes. I mean, yes, when I mentioned desalination as one important component of the water policy to deal with water scarcity, I said it's one important component, not the whole component, obviously. So definitely, I think there is a big margin in terms of reusing treated wastewater in the Arab region and including Morocco, because it's, as you said, less costly. Yes, less costly than desalination. And as I said probably before in the conversation before starting the conference, I think we need, even we have less and less water, probably we are not managing it perfectly. So still there is a big margin to improve at the level of treating wastewater, increase the rate of reusing it in agriculture, in many other uses. We have a lot of water lost, what we call no revenue water in the water distribution network. We have a lot of water lost in agriculture. So efficiency in agriculture is sometimes less than 40%. So I think a lot of effort to be done at this level to improve the water demand management, improve increase the reuse of wastewater before going to desalination. But again, as the need of water is increasing and it's immediate, we need to to use all the approaches. So in parallel, we have to control the water demand, control the water pricing policies, try to improve the water use efficiency in agriculture, try to increase the reuse of wastewater. At the same time, we need to build some plants, desalination plants, etc. So I think this is a whole approach. We need to look at in a holistic way. There's no single solution to the problem of water scarcity.
Thank you.
Perhaps if we return to your slide, where is the desalination is a sustainable solution, I think that humanity needs to invent more technologies to the desalination of seawater. Without using membranes, because membranes use is very common.
I mean, that's why the research is going on right now. I mean, lots of people are working on different kind of membranes, including the graphene I mentioned earlier. I mean, there is a lot of possibilities. So I think research, innovation in this area, I will not be surprised if in a couple of years we will have RO plants working with other kind of membranes. So, I mean, I think there is still margin to improve, and definitely this will be reflected in the cost of the cubic meter. So I think we shouldn't discard from now any technology as far as the innovation, the research is going on, and I think there is margin to improve a lot of aspects in the technology.
Thank you.
I guess we have one question from Mr. Boudouti Hussein. Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you very much. And very interesting presentation from Professor KHARRAZ. Thank you very much. So I am not in this domain, but really it's really a very interesting conference on this practical subject. So I want just by curiosity, my question is about the graphene, the utilization of graphene. Please, could you give us more information about the utilization of graphene for the desalination? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for your question. Yes, I mean, this area is now, I think it made, as I said, a big buzz in 2018 with the publication in Nature by some researchers at the University of Manchester. And they say that they found, at lab scale, a potential use of graphene membranes into RO, replacing the current ones. So we have a lot of people working on different kind of membranes, from ceramic membranes or other kind of material, which improve the permeability of the membrane, which improve, the water efficiency in the system, etc. And it seems that the use of graphene improves some qualities in terms of efficiency of the system, because one of the biggest problem in the RO system is the efficiency. So as far as the efficiency go down, we are producing less fresh water and more brine. And again, the brine is one of the biggest challenges of the technology. So if the graphene membrane could come up with an improvement in this area in terms of efficiency, so we are producing more fresh water and less brine, this definitely would help in making the technology more acceptable and more sustainable. Meanwhile, I think, again, since the publication that I can share with you, I will my email address, I put it in the last slide. I can send you this publication by those guys from Manchester University. Since then, I didn't really see any important funding in the market, as far as I know, in this area. But hopefully, this take 8 years, as I said. Maybe I will not be surprised in 2-3 years we have something in the market and say, yeah, the graphene works perfectly, not only in the lab scale, but also in obviously the normal process is to take it to the pilot stage. And once the pilot is working successfully, we can then take it to the market, and maybe a lot of companies will jump on you know, the big fishes like Veolia, Suez, Abengoa, Aquapower, etc. will jump on it. But for the moment, I don't see it yet in the market, unfortunately. But I think that's because a lot of research is being done right now in the quality of these membranes. So they fabricate this membrane in this with graphene, and they put it in a lab scale RO system, and they test the efficiency, the permeability, the salt rejection, etc. And they showed very interesting and promising results for the moment.
Thank you very much. In fact, please, do you speak about graphene? Because graphene, as I know from nanomaterials, is less than 1 nanometer thickness. So is it the graphene in the real sense of the term, or graphite? I mean, some monolayers of graphene, because it's something nanometric layer. So that's why I am asking this question. Is it the graphene? I mean, because it's really nanometric, or some monolayers of graphene in such a way that it will be some layer with some millimeter or something like that of thickness. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I mean, the current membrane that we use, they have three kind of layers. So when I show the slide, I don't know if you see it now, when I talked about the transformation of the end-of-life RO membrane into nanofiltration or ultrafiltration membranes, once they are used, you know, after 5-8 years, and instead of throw them, we do some transformation using, you know, oxidation process to make it, you know, use it for other application. I think the graphene membrane, the idea is to replace, you know, the polyamide layer. I know that this is used for now in the RO membrane, and the graphene could improve the qualities, as I said, of permeability and the salt rejection and the efficiency of the system. So it's about, you know, replacing the current membrane that we use now in the process of RO system.
Okay, thank you very much. Very, very interesting conference.
Thank you.
Good morning. May I ask a question? May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Professor, for a very interesting, very educative lecture. I would like to ask you if you believe that maybe in future some kind of electrochemical electrolytical methods would be competitive in this desalination process, because RO, it is a mechanical method, electromechanical method. The electrolysis, it is just direct use of electrical energy without mechanical parts. But of course, I am not a specialist of this. It is just my idea in my mind. So please make a comment to this maybe stupid question. Thank you.
No, absolutely not a stupid question. Thank you very much for this very interesting point. I know a lot of research working in this area. So we have other technologies like electrodialysis, or for example, capacitive deionization, and they are using this kind of energy. The only problem right now, I know there is a lot, if you look at the publication in this area, we have a lot of publications and very well-cited publication in this area. The only thing again is the lab scale is working very well. Electrodialysis, we can see it also in some plants around the world. The only thing again is that when it comes to bigger production, is not competitive with RO. So it's a way to maybe still a way to do some improvements to make it more efficient and less costly, especially to be competitive with the existing technology now, which is the RO. But in terms of the lab scale and small scale even, we have many electrodialysis plants around the world, and are working fine, you know, and at small scale, I mean, it's quite competitive. But when it comes to bigger production, it looks like costly and is not affordable by the companies that are you know competing in the international market in this area.
Thank you very much.
Most welcome.
I have
Thank
one.
you,
I have one kind of idea which I would like to put here in this webinar, like a bottle in the ocean. You know that we can regenerate a lot of sodium chloride when we are dealing with the desalination, and you know that there are research on sodium ion battery. And I think if we consider all this amount of sodium chloride or sodium in ion in this process, and we add the RO, the reverse osmosis, and the use of PV in the circular economy, I think it can be a very good project where you have a circular economy, the sodium ion battery, RO, and PV. And it will be very interesting, this kind of project in Morocco to have. So now that we can develop sodium ion battery, we can make circular economy, we can make RO, and we use photovoltaics. I discussed this many times when I was a research director in Qatar, but this is the past, and I would like to see this happen in Morocco. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a very interesting idea. I saw similar idea when I was evaluating the proposal of the PRIMA program. You know, the PRIMA is a Euro-Mediterranean program which is funding a lot of projects in the region. It's very competitive. We received hundreds of applications in the last years, and this program is encouraging a lot such kind of solutions where you close the cycle, and you are providing probably desalination solution to produce water for agriculture, and you are providing also solution as zero liquid discharge or a solution for the brine, where we can definitely get advantage of the minerals or the chemicals that are in the brine. Why not in this area? I mean, the sodium ions that we can probably use this kind of elements in the batteries, that will be perfect. So I encourage you really to see if some research teams in Morocco, I can help also in building a good consortium to respond to one of the PRIMA calls, by maybe another calls, I don't know, but PRIMA, I saw already they are encouraging such kind of solutions in the region. So maybe it could be very interesting to consider building a team and developing a proposal on this area.
Yeah. So I hope that Edison are listening us to launch this kind of project for Moroccan.
That would be perfect.
Student Moroccan researcher, yes.
That would be perfect.
Thank you very much for this nice talk.
Most welcome. Thank you.
I guess there is no other question. Yakas Hamouti.
Oh yes, thank you so much.
Ok, FADOUA, donc il vous reste 5 minutes.
Thank you so much for this very, very interesting talks. Thank you for your participation each time we invite you. Thank you for all.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge, and we had the pleasure to assist this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor HAJJAJI, Professor Hamouti, Professor Jafali, and all organizers and all the participants for this interesting question interaction. I will be happy to discuss further with you. You have my email address, and I will be happy to contribute to any efforts. Thank you so much, and I consider the conference is one of the best events in the last months. I see a lot of interaction with all the presentations, so I really congratulate you for this great effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and the next conference will be at 11 time, Morocco time, inshallah. We are welcome to follow the conference of our colleague from London University, of Professor B.M. Aziz Al-Rahman, on the now you can introduce Professor Aziz Al-Rahman. Yes, on the design and optimization of silicon nanophotonic devices. Activate, please, your micro, Professor Nawi.
Yes, I say that for Professor Rahman from University of London, we have a moderator to do this job, is it?
Yes, yes, I will be the moderator, El Boudouti.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank
you. Thank you. I am here. Yes, thank you.
You are welcome. You are welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. No, in fact, we are waiting that you will. I think you will enter to the conference at 10:30. So he will give his presentation. I think he will. Fali will try to prepare his presentation on the screen. Yes.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve Al-Hussein Bouduti.
So thank you, JAUAD, for this very important presentation.